Welcome back to Daybreak here on Citizen TV. My next guest might not need a lot of introduction. She's a communications consultant, PR guru, so many other things. Gina Din Communication, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here on a cold Monday morning. Right. I love your new studio, though.
Thank you. Yeah, very first big guest here.
Oh, thank you.
So we appreciate you making time for us this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so we want to get to know a little bit more about you. Of course, you know, the brand is huge and people know the work that you do, but you as a person, I was interested to know that you grew up in Nanyuki or were born in
That's
Nanyuki?
Right, born and raised. Yes,
Wow.
I'm really a Nanyuki girl.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you came to discover your passion for PR. I understand you had worked in the corporate world for quite a bit. So
Yes, yeah.
what happened there? What was the transition like?
So I went to school in Nanyuki, grew up in Nanyuki, had a really happy childhood in Nanyuki. And then came to Nairobi to go to boarding school, and then went to the UK to do journalism. I really wanted to have the job that you now have, and you know, found media very interesting, very exciting. But I came back sort of in the middle of the Moi era, where media was definitely not as free as it is now, and I kind of quickly realized that I probably would have ended up in jail had I followed the passion of what I really wanted to do,
Right.
which was to be a journalist. And so I was kind of looking around for something else to do, and Barclays Bank were going to go public, and they were looking for somebody to handle the PR space for them for a 9-month contract. And so I took that job and ended up staying 14 years.
Wow.
So yeah, so I ended up, and it was a great role. It was a role, I was very young, but it was a role that I was able to create for myself and define what that job would be. And so it was really, it was really great. And I really believe the 14 years that I had in the corporate world really made me realize what my passion was.
Yeah. Obviously, starting your own business wasn't something that was easy, I can imagine, or that you took lightly. Was there fear in that decision?
Oh, huge fear. I was very lucky that I worked for an MD at Barclays who, his certainty about my capability was sort of stronger than my doubts.
Oh, okay.
And he would always encourage me to sort of say, why don't you start out on your own? Because to be honest with you, at that time the PR industry was really in its infancy.
Yeah.
And if I'd left Barclays, I could have gone to an EABL or a KQ or whatever, but it would have been the same job. And so I might as well have just stayed at Barclays then. So really the only way out for me was to start out something on my own.
Yeah.
But of course there was huge fear. A lot of fear, and luckily I had a great family around me that were able to sort of encourage me to do it, and great people in my corner.
Yeah.
So that was, that's what inspired me to do it.
Yeah. When people think PR and you think Kenya, you think Gina Din, like that's synonymous. What makes a good PR person, would you say?
I think it's really sort of learning becoming that person that you're representing. So if it was, whether it was Safaricom, you become a little bit of an expert in that field. So you're able to tell their story, or if it's the Central Bank of Kenya, which we handled, you become a little bit of a specialist in all these different areas. And also just having, and I always say people call it sort of being a spin doctor and whatever, but I hate that word.
Yeah.
I think I become an evangelist for my clients, so I evangelize for them.
Yeah.
And it really means you really learning your client's business.
Yeah. And speaking of your clients, obviously you have huge names on your client list, Safaricom, Kenya Airways, list goes on and on. So how is it that you select who you're working with? What sort of
well, it has to be, and I think the longer I've had my brand, obviously when I first started my business, you'll take whatever work you get because you're trying to build your brand, you need to make ends meet. I think as time has gone on, I've become a lot more selective about the work that I do. And, as a business, we're very selective about who we identify our brand with. And so it's really about businesses that are impacting now, and we want to be part of that impact. I think, for me, it's also about telling the African story and shaping the African conversation. And we really, as Africans, we must do that, and I feel very strongly about that we only see sometimes what the international media want people to see, which is the story of conflict, of famine, of corruption, and yet we have so many really good stories on the continent, and I want to be one of those people that shapes the African conversation.
Speaking of good stories, Obama's recent visit to Kenya was a big story, and I guess people want to know what your involvement was, what it was like to meet him, and
I was waiting for that question to come up.
Yeah.
Well, what can I say? I think I'm still sort of reeling from, the it was absolutely amazing. It was very, very exciting. It was a long time in the making. You know, we've been working on it for about 6 months.
Wow.
So there was a lot of planning involved. And in terms of kind of the events that I've done, it's probably got to be one of the most complex, logistically.
Yeah, so many moving parts.
So many moving parts. And yet, in terms of the guest of honor, he was probably one of the most simple.
Wow.
You know, people that I've worked with. He was absolutely amazing. I think the word greatness is thrown about, you know, too often. But if there's a great guy, Barack Obama definitely is a great guy.
Yeah.
His humility was just overwhelming. And I think, you know, for me, what I took in that whole 2 days I was here was just his humility. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, of course. So that must have been such an amazing experience. There's a story that's been floating around online. I'm not sure how true this is. Perhaps you can confirm about Jalango, who emceed at the event, and how he got the job, sort of thing. Was that he made a joke on radio?
Well, actually, it wasn't. It was actually about watching Jalango's story on how, you know, he had sort of made something out of his life, and you know, he also comes from that part of the world, and so I think it was much more identifying with who he was as a person, and realizing that dreams are valid, and for Sauti Kuu, these young people that are, you know, at the center, being able to identify with somebody who, you know, started out possibly like quite a lot of them, but going on to make something out of his life. So, you know, it wasn't quite from a joke.
As simple as they made it seem.
Yeah, but it was, you know, we did try and put a lot of depth and, you know, and really wanting to have people that the children could identify with.
Yeah. Now, outside of everything amazing that you do, you're a mother.
Absolutely, my most important role.
Right. Talk to us about your children, because I know you have some exceptional kids.
So I'm very blessed. I have 2 children. I have a daughter who is doing her PhD at Oxford, actually handing in her thesis in the next week or so.
Wow.
In English literature. She's a Rhodes Scholar. But you know, more than that, she's just a cool girl. She's a very, you know, very down to earth, inspirational young lady. And I feel very blessed, you know, to be her mom. I learn a lot from her.
Yeah.
She was born premature, and so we had a very difficult couple of months, and we weren't really sure that she would survive. So to see her now, and to see her thriving and just being this inspiration to so many younger girls, it just makes me very proud. I have my son Nathan, who graduated actually a day before Obama arrived. So it was pretty hectic. You know, we had to fly to Southampton for his graduation and come back in time to receive the former president. So, and he studied football business and is really determined to shake up, you know, the sports industry on the continent. So. Yeah, I'm very blessed to have 2 incredible children.
Yeah, we're doing so well, and I'm sure. What do you think that you instilled in them that has, you know, caused them to be so exceptional?
I think, you know, I think I spent a lot of time with my children, and I continue to. I mean, my kids are, you know, my best friends. We spend a lot of time together, even though they're adults now. I would choose them to be my friends, and I hope that they would choose me. But I think, you know, as kids, both my husband and I spent a lot of time with our kids, and I really believe that is, you know, you create that sense of security and, you know, feeling very safe.
Yeah, because you can't replace time, right?
No, you can't. And you know, you can give them anything. You can buy them stuff. It does not replace giving them time. And I really do believe that that's the one thing that, as parents, if you can give your kids time, I think you're halfway.
You are also very into charity and giving back and sort of mentorship. Talk to us about why that's important to you.
Well, I think, you know, especially for women, I do think young girls suffer from not having enough women role models, and men seem to have a lot of role models. And so I sometimes wonder whether that's why, you know, women are always sort of, you know, struggling with this whole balance situation. Is maybe we don't have enough women that we can look up to. I know I certainly didn't, you know, when I was going through, you know, building my brand and building my career. So I want to be that woman that I didn't have. And, you know, that's in sort of getting, you know, young girls to realize that their dreams are valid, that, you know, if you live your life with a purpose, you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And it's just sort of helping women to identify what is that life purpose. Because so many times we have young girls that just want to be something, but they're not quite sure what.
Yeah.
And you know, I hope that, you know, I'm able to spend time with them and help them to formulate what is it that they want to achieve. Because I do think that's one thing that I wasn't very good at school. In fact, I was pretty, less than average student. My reports were, you know, probably D's, C's, D's, you know, and so I think a lot of people wrote me off, but there was always something inside me that knew that I had a bigger purpose. And I think I was able to articulate what that purpose was.
Yeah. Now, I understand that you're into yoga.
I do. I love my yoga.
Yeah. When did that start?
So I sit on the board of Africa Yoga Project, which is this incredible organization that takes yoga to the informal sectors. So there's, you know, yoga in Kibera, there's yoga in Kangemi, there's yoga literally all over the place. And it's really brought yoga to the doorstep, because yoga was always seen as very elite. And suddenly, you know, we're getting all these people all over the country practicing yoga. There's yoga in prisons, and it's really the most incredible project. And so I'd started practicing yoga before Africa Yoga Project actually started, but my interest in it really has, you know, increased with sitting on the board of Africa Yoga Project. And I love my yoga. I do yoga probably 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, it must be important to you, because you're living this jet-setting, you know, lifestyle, and, you know, something to just sort of center you.
Yeah, it does. It centers you, it grounds you, and it's a great start for the day, because I'll do my yoga very early in the morning, and, you know, that kind of sets the tone for the kind of day I'm going to have.
Friend of yours, David Murithi, who I spoke to yesterday, told me that you guys have sushi dates.
Oh yeah, so David is one of my oldest friends. I've known him for a really long time, and he's very special, and my children love him. And we try and have like regular, you know, sushi, just catch-ups, you know, where we're just sharing what's going on in our lives. And I think that's what's really important, is that I'm a very relationship person, you know, and I always say that I have a very large network, but a very tight circle. Yeah. And so, you know, I try and spend a lot of time with my tight circle.
Yeah. So, you know, when people think Gina Din, you're thinking like this huge brand, and, you know, for young women watching who might want, you know, to be mentored by you, or to get in touch with you, or just to learn something from you, like, how accessible are you in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, time is always the issue, you know, and I won't pretend that my time is, you know, I don't have too much of it, but I do try. I think, you know, quite often we do have young women that get in touch with my office, and, you know, and if I'm available, I will definitely see them. But social media is obviously a great place to connect, and there's lots of people that connect with me regularly.
So Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, all of those. You know, Twitter, Instagram mainly, Facebook is kind of a little bit more limited for me to sort of family and stuff, but yeah.
Okay, final word, Monday motivation, someone who's struggling to even just get up this morning and, you know, make it through the week.
I think fear. You know, I think that's the one thing that, you know, I think any successful person will always admit to being quite afraid sometimes. And I think for me, what I've learned over the years is embrace success and failure in equal measure. You know, because you're going to have both. I think I see failure, you know, I think sometimes we sort of really worry about failing. And I don't think there's any problem with failing, to be honest with you. I think we just have to pick ourselves up and keep moving on. So I think, you know, I think the fear of failure is probably the thing I'd say to somebody who's struggling today, that it's okay, you might fail, but that doesn't stop you from getting up. And I have failed so many times.
It's part of your journey.
It's totally part of my journey. I mean, anything that would just be, you know, it's like the seasons. It's if we're not ready for the cold weather now, with our scarves and everything else, you know, then we would just be cold. So I think for me, it's being prepared that you are going to fail, you know, and you are going to succeed. And just see them both as day and night.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. I really appreciate it, and
thank
of course,
you so much for having me.
Look up to you so much. So this was an awesome chat that
thank you, and I hope you'll have me back sometime.
Of course,
thank you very much.
Of course. This is Daybreak on Citizen TV, and we've got much more for you to take you all the way to the top of the hour. Fred Indimuli standing by. I understand he's got an update on the Kibera